Welcome back to our Carinine Aug, in which we're sharing a conversation with Bishop Hall on the church becoming a compassionate society. We're talking about the need for an ecumenical approach to this display of Christian solidarity, really, here in the Bahamas, that we could do so much to assist in alleviating poverty and other areas of human need if we can come together and not only be advocates, but also engage in the advocacy, but also engage in the point you were making at the end of the last year, the practical demonstration of what compassion looks like, so that people can appreciate it in the local setting. And it does seem to me that this is not too difficult a task for us to accomplish.
Not at all.
But it is to have the will to come together and work together. But we also must have a common approach. And the approach that I would suggest would be the one I mentioned about the China experience, where the chap risks his life to save the missionary, simply because he says, I also am a human being.
Yes.
And I am not sure that a lot of our members, and even the church, see other people as human beings very often. We tend sometimes to look down on others and to cheapen their value and importance. Yes. And it seems to me that if you don't really value someone, then you're not going to be motivated to help in any way, shape, form, or fashion.
And you could dismiss the person as a human being. And that's dangerous. I say to people, that when we get that time of fellowship, don't just shake a hand and move on. Look people affirm the person you're talking to by looking them in the face. I remember reading somewhere, when you flip a poor man a coin, ask him his name. Just as to identify,
To strike a chord.
Yes.
But I find, we still have a bit of this dismissiveness you refer to. Because there's some people who will say, well, that person's from over the hill.
Yes.
They're from Grandstown or Bayendam, etc. The statement in itself is meant to be dismissive.
Yes.
And really means that you can't take that person too seriously because of where they come from and their background. So that is really a form of dehumanization of the worst possible order.
Yes.
But it's still very much alive.
And even more, people not only the geography where he's from, but his skin is darker than mine. She doesn't have on the dress I have, and these kind of right in the church. And we ought to be more affirming of one another within the context of worship.
We come as fellow believers, fellow travelers.
We say it.
Yes.
That man in the parable was from somewhere else. You said up north.
Oh, yeah, up north.
And he was taking a risk too to be in that area. And he must have seen or might have even experienced this kind of thing. So I know he is a human being. He's not of my nationality or ethnicity, but he's a human being.
But I see it also not just in terms of building a stronger church. It seems to me that it's at the heart of building a stronger nation.
Of course.
That we need to repair the damage in the social fabric. We need to repair the damage that is really at the human level. There's so much distress that is there. And the caring church, the compassionate church, is the church that is there to meet people where they are.
Of course.
And to make the appropriate response, and not to avoid getting there. And the better off we become, the more prone we are to create that distance and not to get too near.
Yeah. Rather than using what we have, the resources, to get to persons. I really think you are spirit-led today, as you've been in other days, to call on Bahamians if we really want a stronger Bahamas,
Bahamas,
it's not going to depend on things or words. It's going to depend on, can we show compassion
towards one
another, regardless
of
where they live, their ethnicity, regardless. See people, when you meet your next confrontation, when you're in a conflict, remember that's a human being. Talk your way out of it. But in imitation of Christ, we say, show compassion. We also say it is time for the Christian church as an institution, as an organization, to let's sit down and talk about how we could, as I said, lift the poor and get the rich to respond to human needs. That's compassion. That's the kind of thing I believe will make a far stronger Bahamas.
And it is doable.
Indeed.
It is doable.
That's true.
But it means transcending certain barriers. It means that we must become more open with our politics.
Yes.
You can't just see somebody as a PLP or FNM or DNA, but just see that person as a person,
Yes.
a fellow Bahamian in
very
need,
much so.
and to be willing to treat that person as a person, not because of any political favor or anything, but simply helping a fellow human being. And it is about our common identity. That's why I mentioned it in the context of a stronger Bahamas.
Yeah.
This is what it means to be Bahamian.
Yes.
And in our present situation, giving expression to our unity, our oneness as Bahamians, sharing in the same identity, that is now way below the surface. It needs to be raised up and to become something that is alive in the community, where we respect the fact that we are one and we belong together, and we must now take the steps that are necessary to demonstrate this in practical ways.
And in theological terms, we all were created in the image of God.
In His likeness, image and likeness.
You can't get away from that, and it's not determined by the blackness of my skin or the texture of my hair. I am God created.
And when we look at others and relate to others as brothers and sisters sharing in the same humanity, we then get rid of all the biases and the prejudices that are so rife in our midst today.
Definitely.
And but then that's a challenge.
It's not easy.
For some people, it's a serious challenge. But it is a question of honesty.
Yeah.
How are we really going to face up to the truth of our reality is that we are all created in His image, and we share in His common humanity.
And all these side things.
They are irrelevant in the final analysis. They just don't count.
The man in the text as a model, he was on a dangerous road, and it was dangerous for him to go help this fellow. But he was willing to take the risk. And I want to call on people. Some of the excuses we use is that, child, I can't make ends meet. I'm working so hard, so I can't get time to care for nobody. But that's really within that context, that you could do a little something for somebody below you in terms of their status, in terms of their own survival skills, in terms of whether they had something to eat this morning. And you said it a while back. We would be surprised of the level of human suffering in this paradise. It's a contradiction. But so have you noticed the news in the morning that they're all jam-packed with banks trying to get you to come in, and you're going to win this and that, but you're going to lose. You have to spend all your money to cover the money. Come on. People are hurting in this paradise, and we must do all we can.
But we have to fight the battle of self-concern, and that people say, yes, this is a difficult time, And so I have to look after my own and my needs. And so we become inward-looking and self-centered, as opposed to the challenge of the gospel to open up and to embrace the other as a fellow human being, and to do so in love. But we can change the way people's attitude. I think if we could have what they call this ecumenical approach, if we all can come together and share and present a common message. Because at present our message is not so common. I mean, we're given all kind of disjointed messages. And if we can just present the nation with the challenge to be human beings and to give public expression to our corporate humanity, that we could make milestones in terms of progress.
A quantum leap forward. I remember, I'm not bragging, but it's true, I remember when I served as president of the Christian Council, Archdeacon William Thompson gave me the concept of zones of compassion. God bless him. And I tried to work it, wherever an incident took place, I zoned off the area and called it a zone of compassion. A lady in Kemp Road, an elderly lady, a house burned down, and I called several churches in that area, and I think we raised about $6,000. We took it to a lumber place, told him what we were doing, and he said, because you did that, we will match it. The lady is in her house right there. And
this is doable.
Yes, it is doable. I think we got about 5, 6 churches at that time. But what if we could get 20 churches in a zone? Forget the denomination, because we're not asking about your doctrine or your structure. We're saying this is social outreach. Let's do it.
But I would go further to say this is an attempt to give expression to our common humanity.
Of course.
We all one.
Of course.
And we see our fellow human beings in need.
Yes.
And we are going to try to respond as far as we're capable to the need. But I want to say that the need is in excess of the material realm.
Of course.
Because not only there's a spiritual need, I mean, I think one of the greatest challenges is in education. The church can be more active, not just in creating schools, but the church can be given the advocacy in helping parents to get a better understanding of the importance of education and the role of parents in education, because you can't improve the quality of the education simply by leaving it to the schools. The teachers need the cooperation of the parents, so we can help parents to have a better attitude and to understand what is needed. So it's a question of communicating and helping them to grow in a knowledge and understanding. We also need to help, I think, the teachers and the professionals to understand that they're dealing with human beings. And because you are dealing with human beings, you know that they all can be tainted with the same brush. The whole question of individuality and how teachers, one of the problems of teaching is for teachers to develop favorites and to pick out this group and other. If we're going to have a system that must be good for all, I mean, there are a whole lot of issues related to the improvement of education that the church can be involved in through the realm of advocacy. And to do so, again, if we did it together. If all the churches came together to say, this is what we're trying to help, and if every pulpit we can be helped to give that kind of teaching and encouragement, we can build up the awareness to a significant level.
Indeed. And Bishop, you know this part of me, I like to be forceful and out front. But I think if we were to say to our audience that within the next 2 months, we want to be able, that you and I will try to be able to put together a ecumenical advocacy group that will do just what we've talked about, where we will call together, you said all, but you never get all. You never get all. But there are 22 denominations in this country. What if we were to get half of them in a room talking about let's become so socially conscious that we will become an advocacy group for various areas of our society. If we could vow that we're going to try, that by the end of September, we will be able to say we're on our way for such a group.
Well, now we must take our final break for the evening.